Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Vroom podcast. It is your host, Fernando Mercado, and we are back. Thank y'all for bearing with me last weekend. Didn't end up doing one of these little race breakdowns like I normally do. Ended up having to kind of just do a new segment that's not so new that I brought back, which is kind of our Into the Weekend, where I'll give y'all my race predictions and things like that. So we had our first episode of that last Saturday. I'll upload one of these race breakdowns every Thursday or Friday after a race GP weekend, and then we'll upload a kind of into the weekend race predictions, thoughts going into the weekend on qualifying, if we upload on a Saturday. If not, you'll get that also on a Friday. It all depends on life as I navigate my world outside of this little bubble that we have here when we're together. So thank you. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, thank you guys for listening. It means a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, which is how most of y'all watch this, thank you for watching. It means a lot to me. So we're doing it. We out here. Let's get right into it. We have two races to talk about this week. We are talking about the Hungarian GP for Formula One, and for NASCAR, we're talking about the Iowa Corn 350. I'm trying to think about. I wouldn't say it was a chaotic weekend. Certainly, one race was chaotic as hell, which we anticipated happening. I would say strategy meets destruction is maybe where I'm at in the title for the themes of last weekend, and maybe that'll make more sense as we go through it. So let's jump right into our first segment, which is going to be our Formula One race in Hungary. It was an awesome race. It was, I think, I'm starting to realize, like, as I do more of these podcast episodes and as I watch more and more races every weekend, I'm slowly starting to understand what's happening. And I don't mean like I'm watching and I'm like, huh? Half the time I'm just like meaning that when I'm watching the races as a fan and as a regular audience member who's maybe was more casual before, I'm not taking in all the strategy stuff yet. I'm seeing cars go fast. I love the speed. I love the overtaking battles. I understand, like, obviously, someone's trying to go on an inside line or an outside line. That stuff you kind of catch on a little faster, but the idea about how pit strategy and tire degradation and aerodynamics and the so many technical aspects of the car and how strategy works into that, you don't really understand how that unfolds during a race. And then you see someone who was pretty much slow all race win, and you're like, how? And so that kind of stuff makes more sense to me now. I'm starting, I was watching this race, and normally I need a little help, crafting this strategic part of my notes. So I don't really include into the podcast because I don't feel like I'm super knowledgeable about that yet. So I'm not really like one to talk, but now I can kind of write them by myself. I can kind of look at the race and be like, oh, they're trying to execute this 2-stop strategy, and it didn't really work out for them because the 1-stop ended up being what worked out in the race, which is what happened. Especially between McLaren and Ferrari, I think I have kind of an idea that Oscar and Charles seemed to be on the same strategy. They were on this 2-stop strategy, and then Lando kind of during the race got to ask, hey, do you want to move to a 1-stop and see if you can make it by the end on fuel and on your tires? And he was like, yeah, because at that point, I mean, he lost essentially at the beginning of the race. He lost, I think he was P2. I believe he was P2 or P3. I can't remember, but I believe he went down to P5 off the start of the race, and he had to kind of pick it back up after that. And Oscar was pretty much on point to take the lead from Charles. So Lando had really no other option if he wanted to go for a win. He either does a two-stop and kind of maybe manages to get a podium, or he does a one-stop, shoots for the moon, and then ends up with a podium anyway. So it kind of was a no-brainer for Lando to try the one-stop. And I think that's kind of also the dual aspect of the weekend. Maybe this is where the destruction aspect comes in for the Formula One. A better word would probably be a disaster for Leclerc, for Ferrari. They have this special moment. They get this pole position, right? And I think that's Leclerc's first pole this season. I'm pretty sure that's Ferrari's first pole, obviously, this season, because Lewis is not doing well, and we'll get to that eventually. But this surprise moment, Leclerc was obviously almost baffled at the fact that it happened, and they knew going into this weekend that McLaren was going to have race pace and they were going to have to defend or figure out some sort of dominant strategy. And I know that they went for whatever they were going to go for, and Charles at the end of the race was like, see, if you guys had just like talked to me and asked me, it would have been fine, like we could have figured something out. And it's sad to see him say that over the radio, because it's true. Had they trusted him, maybe he could have given an alternate strategy that might have not been their first optimal strategy on paper. But they have to improvise in that car. That car just does not have the ability to win a race by speed and strategy alone. They have to do some crazy crap in order to make it work. And, I don't know if Ferrari's willing to take risks. And I don't know if they're going to get any good, any real good result for either of their drivers if they don't start taking some risks. It just seems to me like, I know that they're struggling, but business as usual on the field, so I don't know. I just see the frustration, and obviously something has to give, and it's beyond the car. It's something else. So, on the other side of that, right, Charles is for pretty much the first half of the race, he keeps the lead, and then at a certain point, it becomes, well, now Lando is in line to take the net lead, because he's putting down crazy qualifying level laps, and he is maintaining the tires, and I believe he was on hards, and those aren't obviously as fast as the mediums or the, I mean, not that they were going to run softs there. And at this track, there's no real way to do a clean overtake on a straight. Everything is turns. So they usually don't do a lot of overtakes. There were some, some crazy ones, especially by Max, who had a very difficult race, was pretty much a non-starter all race. Yeah, I think that Lando just kind of pulled magic, as he does, because he's that kind of driver, and I think he's certainly more in that headspace now than he was before. He just put down crazy laps and obviously got in front of Charles, and then Piastri was able to get in front of Charles, and the battle between Oscar and Lando for the lead around the last couple laps of the race was insane. I had my hands in my mouth. I was just like, like it was so exciting. They were, trying to. It was most of the track. They were just and then you had Oscar just right on him and lunging, trying to get that lunge in on those last three laps. And then I think on the second to last lap, he what is it? He like stopped the brakes, and they smoked. He locked the brakes. They locked up. That's the word I'm looking for. He locked up the brakes, and yeah, man, it just wasn't enough. He just couldn't put enough on it, and Lando took that win. And obviously, I'm a huge Lando fan, so I'm not mad about a Lando win. And George took a P3 from a really good, putting down really good laps too. He was doing overtakes too, and I'm pretty sure Charles tried to overtake him at some point too. They had a little battle, and George got a little upset. Like he does all the time. So yeah, that was funny. And yeah, it was just a really awesome, exciting race. I think that the one stop versus the two stop, one stop definitely was the winner there. I think that was the right gamble. Had Oscar done it too, I don't know. I think that the two stop was the general right one that everyone was going to be on, and the one that was most definitive to work, and so to get you to the end of the race. So it would be right to put Oscar on that, seeing how he's in the lead of the championship, and he should be able to make it work. And it's not like he didn't. He beat Charles, to it. It was just Lando on that one stop. He was able to make it work, and I think that was only something that he could really make sense. I mean, Oscar could have too had the roles been switched, but I think in this moment, that's not how it worked out, and there wasn't really much Oscar could do. He put down an awesome race. He's a driver I definitely commend. He's kind of grown on me too as the season has gone on. I think I've gotten to see him. I think the pressure that he's in is pretty insurmountable to go up against Lando. And he's still performing as incredibly as he has done this season. Not like he's some sort of underdog. He is going into F1 and an incredible driver, and going into this season was a favorite too. I don't think we were ready to see how awesome he was, but it was kind of cool to just he put up a video of him before Spa, driving the track and his sim at home, in his socks, and just he put a point where he stopped the car and he showed his favorite part, which is looking over this mountain range, and that humanized him so much to me. I think that that's really helpful for anyone, but especially for someone like me. I don't know you. I don't, and I want to know little aspects about who you are, so that way I have something to root for. And he gave me one of those nuggets, that little humanity of just showing us that was, it was beautiful just to be up on that thing, and knowing that he gets to see that in real life too, and it's kind of an emotional thing. I can feel it for myself as if I was living it. I can only imagine for Oscar, who gets to live it, who gets to see that. And Spa is also my favorite track. I love Spa. I think it's so fun and interesting and weird and cool, and that dip up. I mean, that's a dream right there. So yeah, I think that I've been really rooting for Oscar, and so them battling it out couldn't be better for me. Seeing some of my favorite drivers just who's going to win, I'm not mad about either of them winning. So this time Lando took it. Lando has been my favorite so far, so not mad about it. But, Oscar's going to get his moment again. They kind of trade off when they win. I anticipate Oscar taking at least 2 or 3 more wins before the season ends, if he doesn't win a championship, that is. At the very least, he would win at least 3 or 4. I think that's what I said. So, yeah, sticking with that. All right, well, here, let's see. I went over all that stuff with the strategies. Lando now only has 8 points off the lead for first in the drivers' in the drivers' championship. So that's awesome. Sorry, I had to crack my toe. It really hurt. I think also someone to look at. We got Gabriel Bortoleto sometimes I say his name really American, and then sometimes I say his name with my Latina accent. I'm just gonna say his name with a Latina accent. It makes me feel better. So Gabriel Bortoleto, he has had 3 top 10s in the last 4 races, uh, which is pretty phenomenal. I think he had a tough start, as we said, this season, and now he's, I don't know, really pulled it together and it's just performing. And that Sauber too. I mean, that Sauber was newly upgraded, so he's really taking advantage of it more than Nico is. I mean, not that Nico hasn't been performing incredibly too. He literally got his first podium not so long ago, but I don't know. I think Gabriel's been really finding some magic in that car, and I'm really excited to keep seeing him get points. I wonder if he can even get a podium this season. He is a phenomenal driver, so there's no reason why he shouldn't. He's definitely got Rookie of the Year vibes. For right now, I think Hadjar also at the beginning of the season had taken that crown, so it could be either of them. I don't know which yet. Obviously, it's too early to tell, but Gabriel's definitely up there. So, and I think, I always pretty much every week talk about Lewis. I talked pretty extensively about Lewis. I don't know if that was last week or the week before, so I'm not gonna go too insane, but again, he's just so dejected and it's just so sad. I want to see Lewis win. I want to see Lewis have a big old W, and I don't know what he needs. I think he needs a break. I think he has his break. I think he needs to put some motivational music on, motivational speaker vibes, someone to tell you, you can do it, you got this, like don't let your dreams be dreams, remember that? You remember that one? Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, that he needs that. He needs that again. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Ferrari, you can do it. It's possible. I certainly see a Ferrari Lewis Hamilton win sometime in the future. I don't know if it's soon, but it's certainly in the future. So that's something to look forward to eventually. And yeah, I think Lewis can do it. So, Lewis, if you're listening, I believe in you, brother. You got this. Yeah. So we really want to just see that man just come back up. It's hard to see a man down like that. So we just want to see a man up. So we up. And there goes the tism again. Let's keep it going. Segment 2, because oh wait, no, I have one more note before we 2 more notes actually before we move on and we go to our segment 2. But I called Lando's win last week. I got a lot of stuff wrong though. I just want to quickly look at my race predictions. I think that's a fun thing we can do every week now that I do these looking forward things, right? Let's see. What did I predict was going to happen? I have so many notes everywhere. Okay, I predicted that Lando was going to win, so there we go. I was 9 out of 10 confident in that. So I think I brought it down to 7 out of 10 after qualifying, but I still got that one, so I'm not mad. Hell yeah, that's 1 W for your boy Fern. I had to burp as I was saying that too, so that was very difficult for me to say. Just had to make a note of that. I also predicted that maybe Max would be lurking for a chaos moment. That did not happen. He was nowhere in there at all. So, yeah, big suck. I had written down here that Haas would be in the top 5, and I think during the episode I actually said that, Aston Martin would find its way into the top 5, top 8, I think. And if I said top 8, I was right. I believe Lance Stroll was 7th and Fernando Alonso was 5, so was P5. So I think that worked out. And I don't think I said this on the podcast last weekend, but for drama, I had that Oscar would crash, if that would be real drama, if that would happen, and he didn't, thank God. So I was wrong. that's how that went. And I think, you know, my only I think if anyone's really in the red zone right now in terms of teams, Mercedes at Kimi's having a moment, but at least they have George. Ferrari is always having a moment, but at least they have Charles and Lewis. It could really be worse. But with Red Bull, they have Max. Can't get better than that. But they have at this point, the worst car. No, Williams probably has the worst car, sadly. Yeah, that car's crap. But yeah, either they have the worst car or Red Bull is definitely giving them a run for their money now, because Yuki just can't do anything. And I'm just gonna go on a limb here and say Yuki's just not gonna have a drive at Red Bull for next year, and I don't know what team is gonna take him. I really don't know what's gonna happen with your boy Yuki. So he's gonna have to figure it out. He's gonna need a podium. Yeah, he needs a podium to save his career at this point. So hopefully he can pull that. Those are my Formula One thoughts. I think that it was overall a really fun weekend. It was a really exciting weekend. I had a great time watching the races, and I'm just really excited to come back to Formula One. It's kind of annoying. We got a break, but I guess the drivers need a break. Fine. So we're gonna have to just sit and anticipate. Maybe I'll have to go back. I think I was watching at some point the 2018 season, whatever it was, the first season of Drive to Survive. I went back to watch the actual Formula One season itself, with the F1 TV subscription. It's really fun to go and see archive stuff. I think every sport platform should have archive seasons. I don't know if the MLB should be doing that. There's way too many games for them to do that with, but like a season review would be fire. I know the NBA has that too. We should have archive season stuff, because there's so many awesome seasons of sports, bro. I want to watch more stuff. So that's segment 1. Segment 2, we have NASCAR. We have the NASCAR Iowa Corn 350. We didn't have a IndyCar race. We will have an IndyCar race this weekend. We will cover that on the Into the Weekend segment that we will have. But here we go, going into our NASCAR. It was a pretty fire race, I would also say. I think that it was kind of slow at first, and then it went insane. So that's just to say the least. So kind of setting the stage. This Iowa track is new to NASCAR. I believe they've only been racing on it for 2 years, is what the people were saying. So there's not a lot of time for these drivers to have, being comfortable with it. Denny Hamlin said that this was one of his worst tracks because he barely has driven it, and it did go to show it was one of his worst tracks. So that did not go well for him. It did not go well for many people. So we're going to get into that. I think that also this race was kind of having the same implication that all the races are going to have for the rest of the regular season, and that they've had for maybe the last 3 or 4 races, is that we're kind of closing in. So either drivers that don't have wins that would like to be in the bubble at all need a win. There's just, if you're outside the bubble, you don't have enough points, like Brad Keselowski, you need a W. And, if you're like Alex Bowman or Chris Buescher, which you're in the bubble, but your spot can be really taken away at any moment, you need a win in order to cement it. So that's kind of where we were going into this weekend. William Byron. I gotta tip my hat off to my boy William Byron. I believe he's the guy who learned to race on sim racing and then was brought in to race professionally. Please yell at me if I'm wrong, but it's so fire to see someone do that, because I mean I think it's 100% possible, right? you will get used to the G's in the car, and that I mean that adds another element to racing, the actual physical needing to preserve physical preservation in terms of driving, right? Is something you can only do by being in the car. But as to me, the hat on I have right now is someone who is not a race car driver. I have played other physical sports. I can play baseball on my video game, in my whatever sim video game, with my controller. But it won't. I guess that's not the same thing. So I'm gonna know that point. Actually, I'm gonna know that point because the equivalent would be that I would be sim. I guess like VR baseball controlling and playing. But I also think that doesn't really give you the same physical. Like I don't really think you can sim play basketball, sim play baseball right now until like you can physically do all the movements at once, and you have that physical haptic feedback of actually being with the ball, things like that. In terms of being in the car, obviously there's so much physical stuff that happens in the car that changes how you drive. The weight, real physical aerodynamics, not fake aerodynamics that are done by numbers, right? How hot NASCARs get. I'm really going off on this point. I don't know why, but I'm going to finish it soon, I promise. I think that at least the terms and conditions of driving, the racecraft, the ability to understand apex points and the mathematical equations you're doing as a driver, those things can happen on a sim. And as you can see, those are really the things that matter, because William Byron can get used to all the other stuff and, use all the things that he applied from sim racing and drive in real life and take a big W. So that's a W for your boy who would like to race one day. I did not start in high school, but I would like to start now, and do some sim racing and maybe one day get in a real car and race for once, So I think that was really, he had a pretty strong domination at the beginning of the race. He fell off later on and then was able to put it together for maybe the last 30 or so laps for the win. So that was awesome. I think that, the way that worked out was through strategy. If you didn't watch the race, essentially we were under green for the entire first stage. Brad Keselowski was right on your boy William Byron the whole time. And then Brad ended up taking stage 1, took stage 2, so William Byron did not take any of the stage wins. He just pretty much had the first stage down. Brad took it around the last couple laps. And so once we kind of got into stage 2, though, Brad won the stage through placing himself in a good spot when chaos unfolded and people just started dying left and right. People, SVG spun out twice. So many drivers. I Christopher Bell at one point. I think Kyle Larson also at one point. Ryan Blaney also spun at one point, maybe. I don't remember. So many cars just were going crazy. It's less than a mile track. They're running real close, real fast. So, and those next gen cars kind of run a little loose, it seems. So, it was just not, for a lot of drivers, it wasn't a good day. And Brad was able to make the most of that kind of scenario to kind of get the stage 2 win. But in stage 3, it really didn't work out. And I think that William Byron maybe pit around lap 204 out of 350. And he gambled staying out the rest of the race. And that's something we saw within both races, right? It wasn't necessarily a one-stop strategy for Byron, but essentially trying to extend this stint on these tires and on this fuel to the end of the race, so that way we can be out while everyone else is pitting, and we'll just be able to take that lead, because everyone else is just kind of having to cycle into the back. and we don't have to cycle because we're out. For Formula One, I feel like we focus more on the tire degradation. I feel like that's really where the race was won and lost. Is Hungary's kind of pavement seems to be astronomically tough, so it just sandpapered through all the cars and their wheels, so they didn't have any traction, and they had to just pit in order to get more traction. And because Lando was on the hards, he was able to make it last. However, he just had, just back to that point, Lando, because he was on hards, he had to put down faster lap times than anyone else who was maybe on a medium, because they were technically going to be faster. In our NASCAR race, it seemed that tire deg was less of the problem and more so fuel. And fuel ended up being what almost screwed Byron over, because he was really low on fuel. Thankfully, by the end of the race, he had a little bit of a gap between him and Chase and Brad, who was just always peering in the back there, trying to get in the win. Ryan Blaney was also in the mix there. That part, Byron had gotten that little gap for himself, so he had to loosen up on the throttle and on the brakes in order to be able to do that fuel conservation. I think he had some cars also in between them, so he was able to coast a little bit off of them, so it kind of worked out in his favor. He really was able to make that gamble work out. And sometimes you need to take that gamble. I think that's what we really learned this weekend. Had Byron and Lando not done what they did and just tried and put down excellent race pace, they wouldn't have won. But they would have put down great race pace anyways, so they trusted themselves to make it work. And if they didn't, the gamble would have been worth it anyways. Okay, I think a bird just flew into my window. Yeah. Okay. That happened. Fire. We're just gonna keep going. Yeah. That was kind of how the strategy worked out in terms of the race as well. I think Brad was one of the top stars. I think Byron was one of my top performers too. But Brad he's had a tough season. He's had moments of pace, but he just hasn't been able to make it work. And 2 stage wins, almost got the win. I think he now has the confidence he needs to come in next weekend and hopefully maybe get a win at Watkins Glen. I don't really know how his road course abilities are, but hopefully he can make it work, because he needs a win if he's gonna make the playoffs, and he deserves it. So yeah, good weekend for him. I think there's a lot of people fighting at the bubble. I think Ryan Preece had a really good race. I think that kind of puts pressure on people like Chris Buescher, who needs a freaking win, bro. I don't know what Chris Buescher is waiting for. I don't know if it's the car. I don't know if he's not pushing the car. But this is one of the favorites, and I'm not really seeing anything from him. He was a non-starter this race too, so I'm waiting. Chris. I want to see you. So, yeah, we had a lot of late race drama that pretty much created the chaos that ensued and destroyed people's races and made other people's races viable at all. I think also just one more thing to note for the NASCAR race before we start kind of bringing everything down. SVG, watching him spin out twice was honestly really funny and really expected because he just really didn't have he really needs to get that oval ability down. He's really struggling on ovals, and if he's gonna be a NASCAR champion, he needs to prove that he can drive on one oval. Pick one. SVG, I don't know, jump in the sim every day, jump in that sim. You drive one of them, whatever is going to be in the playoffs, and you drive. I mean, he's going to be crazy on road courses anyways, so that will get him pretty far. But if he wants a real W, he's going to need one of those oval wins. So, and that'll shut all the naysayers up. So hopefully he studies. I think he can do it, though. I'm here. I love supercars, always. I'm always going to talk about supercars if I can. So there we go. SVG for the win. Now on to our power rankings for the weekend, separated by racing series. We got our F1 power rankings. First up, we got Lando, obviously number one, executed an excellent strategy, maintaining tire deg and putting down fast lap times, won the race. Super exciting. Love that from my boy Lando. I have Gabriel Bortoleto. I can't say his name like a normal person. It will never happen. He is on fire. He is awesome. He is the rookie of the year so far. He's killing it in that Sauber, and I think that this is really only the beginning for him. So I'm really excited to see how he keeps going. He's just going to keep finding his way in our power rankings. We got Oscar Piastri, number 3. So sorry. I know the race certainly didn't go his way, but, P2 is obviously nothing to scoff at, and he performed to the best of his ability. That McLaren just, they just didn't put him on the dominant strategy for that race. The dominant strategy is the one stop because that's what won the race. But, I just think I think he really did everything he could. It just Lando was better this weekend. That's really all it was. He just was better, and had the opportunity to be on this one stop. It was given to him. They just didn't give it to Oscar. So yeah, sucks. It sucks. But the top three on the power rankings. Hooray for that, because that means something. We got George Russell. I put George Russell there because obviously he had a strong performance in this Mercedes. That was a surprise P3. I don't think anyone really had that on their list, but he made the most of the chaos that was ensuing on the field with all the strategies and stuff. And he's the largest asset that Mercedes has. I think that their car is not great, and their car is fine. Their car is fine. It performs well. And Kimi is going to be one of the best drivers in the modern era. He's just not that right now. He just needs time to cook. He's 17, so he needs time. So right now, George is the face of Mercedes. He is going to be the winner for Mercedes. So, let George cook, guys. Let George cook. And I put Fernando Alonso. Anytime I can put a do with my name on there, I'm gonna do that. So hell yeah for your boy, making our name strong with a P5 in an improving Aston Martin. I believe that car is getting better. If Lance Stroll is in the points, obviously the car is doing something well. So happy to see Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso, getting his flowers. Will we see an Aston Martin win, Fernando Alonso win by the end of the season? I don't believe that's going to happen. Possibly a podium if they can get really, really lucky. But, we'll see how the midfield keeps unfolding. And that's it for my Formula 1 power rankings. Moving on to our NASCAR power rankings. End us off. William Byron obviously had to be number 1 on the list. He was the definition of not giving up. I actually wrote here he was the definition of giving up. That's not what I meant. I meant to say not giving up. But yeah, so he had a strong lead, lost it for most of the race, but after having a strong pit stop and, fuel saving and just making that gamble, he won. He took the win. He was able to just do what Byron does sometimes and fly. Sometimes he just flies like that, and he just has an undeniable win, So I really tip my hat off to him. It was really exciting. Watch him just take that lead. The last 40 laps of that race was awesome. So yeah, you should definitely watch all the replays when they go up, because I don't know, they're just unreal. I love NASCAR. I love watching races. I love motorsport. And I love sharing it with y'all. So number 2, I had Brad Keselowski because obviously difficult season, mid-competitive car, but they were able to find some sort of magic in that. And he was short of a win, but 2 stage wins and a podium I don't think is anything obviously to scoff at either. So hell yeah, Brad was on fire this race. Can't wait to see if he comes back with anything later on. Ryan Blaney. I think that I actually, wait, hold on. We're going to go back a little bit. That's my going back sound. We didn't go over my race predictions that I did for NASCAR. So we're just going to really quickly. I didn't have many. That's why. That's why we didn't. My only race prediction was that Ryan Blaney was going to win. So we don't have to go back that far. And that Bowman would be there if things got messy. Bowman was not. Bowman did not do anything when it got messy. But Blaney did. I was 6 out of 10 on my confidence of him possibly winning the race, but he was in the equation most certainly, and P6 is strong, I feel, and yeah, he just kind of had a tough start, and for him to be there, and obviously Iowa's an important race for him. He won it last year. He has family that lives in Iowa, tons of supporters out there, so it was just cool to, see him at the end of the race just try and zoom, just try to get that podium if he could. So, yeah, Blaney's that guy. So love him. Chase Briscoe had at 4 on the power rankings. I mean, obviously, I wish I could have put him higher because he got pole, but he just couldn't convert pole. That seems to be a thing with Chase, but obviously he do be winning races too, so let's not scoff at Chase Briscoe. P2 is also great. He still has race pace. He still, when things get tough and he faces adversity during a race, doesn't just give up, keel over. He tries his best. So, hell yeah. Love seeing my boy Chase up there in the podiums after everything that happened with Stuart Haas. Getting the opportunity at Joe Gibbs. He's one of those drivers you really root for. So, yeah, thumbs up for Chase Briscoe. And then we have Bubba Wallace finishing up the top 5. I had a half a mind to put now I'm blanking on this man's name, but Ryan Preece. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I was gonna put him on the list at 5, but Bubba had a crazy oh no, Ryan Blaney got P5, Bubba Wallace was P6, and it was Ryan Preece. There you go. Sorry, I can't read. I'm illiterate. That's why. So I'm so sorry. Here we are. Bubba Wallace started P15. I believe he went down to P22 at some point, and then he did push it all the way to P6, right behind Ryan Blaney, which is a crazy comeback. And I'm a big Bubba fan, and although Ryan Preece had a really great race, I don't know if he was P3? I think he got podium. And he's kind of had a difficult-ish season, so, that kind of deserves his kudos too, which is why I'm mentioning him. But Bubba had a crazy comeback. Didn't do well in qualifying. Ends up top 10, almost top 5. That's my man. That's your boy right there, Bubba Wallace right there. So I'm glad that he's using that confidence from his Brickyard win to keep propelling him forward, not giving up, and he's going to be hungry for it. I think he's going to come into the playoffs strong. Hopefully, this could be the year for Bubba. So, yeah. And that's my that's really what I have for this episode. Looking ahead, we had the F1 summer break, so I'm excited to see who's going to come back stronger. If anyone's kind of going to lag behind who was doing well, I'm excited to see where we're going to be at, especially after qualifying when we come back to Formula One. And see where the rest of the season goes. As for NASCAR, the bubble is slowly closing. The window for a win is closing, and we're going to be at Watkins Glen. So really anything can happen because it's another road course. So we might get maybe an Alex Bowman win there. He usually performs well on a road course. So yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering how this is going to go. It's going to be an exciting weekend. We have an IndyCar race this weekend, which I'll cover tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me on this Friday afternoon. When I'm recording this, probably Friday evening when I upload this. So thank y'all. Have a great day, and I'll see you later this weekend. Bye-bye.